All right, here we go. And so it is. Good morning, everyone. Rise and shine. Welcome to Rise and Shine with Morning Moon. My name is Coach Lacy, and today is Thursday. I hope you have anchored in. If you haven't already, be sure to anchor in with the Daily Foundations checklist in the Rise and Shine with Morning Moon group on Facebook. You can also download my Release Foundations guide from my website, www.lacyjwatson.com, and anchor in and check in with your Circle of Life checklist for the uh, seasonal accountability. Oh, I hope you're all doing well today. And today is Thursday. We're nearing the end of the week and nearing the end of Bright Week following Easter. And today I want to talk about worry. Yesterday we talked a little bit about forgiveness. This week we are in difficult people. So we are talking about forgiveness, difficult people, and worry this week. So I'm not talking about just the occasional stresses, I'm talking about like that deep soul shaking worry that comes from loving somebody deeply. And worrying about people you love and worrying about situations is one of the hardest weights to carry. And maybe you are not in a season of worry, but if you are, you could be worrying about anything from your kids' well-being to your partner's health. You could be worrying about a friend who is struggling with something dark. Maybe it's your parents aging or even a sibling struggle that you just can't fix. I've been there. I know that pain, the pain of worry and the feeling of not being able to do anything and the feeling of not being able, the powerlessness that you feel when things have gone sideways. It's a protection that you want to put around the people that you love. You want to put a hedge of protection around them. Worry it's coming from a good place, but it's not productive. And all it does is makes us trouble with ourselves with tomorrow's disturbing thoughts. And we can't, we don't have control over the future. We don't have a control over people, places, and things. But the only thing that we do have control over is things like our controllables. So when we are tormenting ourselves and worrying and carrying, we're already carrying so much in our day. We're carrying that backpack up the mountain and the mountain of our life. And that backpack starts to get heavy. And if you're worried about the rocks in your backpack or worried about the things that are poking you or whatever, worried about things to come or worrying about obstacles, that you're worried about something you're going to encounter up the mountain, it's not going to actually help you get there any faster. But instead, if you were to take some of the rocks out that you're worried about, or if you were to, be proactive and make a plan or pray about it, rather than worry. So tormenting yourself when you are concerned about something, it's just feeding into the it worries a thief. It robs you of joy. It robs you of peace. It drains your energy and it tricks you into thinking that you are the solution to someone else's life or you are the solution to something that's already been fixed, and you're not the solution to someone else's life, especially when you're worrying about somebody else. What we can do is we can pray and we can show up with love, and we can trust that God will show up in the divine design. And we all have calling on our life, and there's a divine design. Speaking of calling, someone's blowing up my phone. We all have a calling on our life, and there's a divine design. But if we worry about it and we spend our days um thinking about what we can't control, lying awake at night with our hearts racing over the things we have no, we just are not able to, not even control. We're not able to affect the outcome in a way that is purposeful in that moment when you're lying awake at night, um, trying to problem solve, when really you just need to pray about it and let it go. You can try to solve it every which way forward, but if you don't just let it go and give it to God, it's going to sit and fester in your mind. And you can't hold your breath over people. You'd rather breathe life into them by praying for them. you know uh, it's peace. Peace needs to have the final say. Peace needs to say what is in and out. Your peace it needs to be definite. So if worry is starting to creep in, just let it go, because your peace is worth everything. It's not worth your peace of mind. You can't control everything, especially people. You can't control it, because peace, if we live in peace and we just operate from a place of peace and love, it's it's powerful. It's a it's presence of trust and trusting, and it's trust in action. To have peace, pray about it, and release it. It's really difficult to do. I've worried about Jesse's health. I worry about our daughter's path in life. I've worried about how we're going to get through some seasons in our life. And I have just learned that worry doesn't fix it. It just exhausts me and makes me angry, and it puts salt in the wounds, really. And I can sit here and worry all day, but it won't make a difference. So what has healed me through this has been trust and prayer and surrender and gratitude. you know um when my dog was really sick, Shadow, when he was really sick, I was praying and praying and praying to God that he would heal him, and that, and worried and worried and worried and worried. And I remember chatting with someone at my work at the time, who um he was a very devout Christian fella, and he said to me, whatever outcome happens, whether your dog lives or dies, it's God's will. It's part of the bigger plan, and you'll be okay. Whatever happens, you'll be okay. And you're going to be sad for a time, but just know that everything happens for a reason. And it's really hard to reflect on, especially all the loss that I've had. And sometimes I don't understand still why these things happen. I still wrestle with this, the worst, especially with my brother's death. I wrestle with that quite a bit. But in reflecting on my dog, I worried so much about his health, and he ended up dying, and it was really terrible. And I found him passed away, and it was a really hard day. But later on, we ended up getting our current dog, Jasper, and he's just the light of our lives. And we loved our other dog so much, but this little guy has kind of I don't know, something has changed inside of us because of the deep pain we felt over the loss of that dog and what happened and unfolded. There was lessons that were learned there, and we were able to show up in a different way and get this little guy from when he was a puppy. And it was just a very deep lesson learned. And while it was sad and tragic, there was, as is life, we all are born to die. And uh we learned so much from it. And it giving it to God. I remember giving it to God after I talked to my coworker, and all things unfolded. And it was tragic and it hurt, but there was a release in it. And it was healing, the surrender and the prayer and just the gratitude for even having my dog to begin with. And there's a verse in the Bible that says, do not be anxious about anything, but everything in prayer and thanks, gratitude, and repetition. If you present your requests to God, and that the peace of God will transcend all understanding, and it will help guard your heart and guard your mind. And that's in Philippians. And that verse has stuck with me when it comes to worry, because worry just causes more perpetuation of negativity and sickness. And I want to live in peace. And I want to live in the type of peace that doesn't even make sense to other people. The type of peace that, knowing that my purpose is, I have a calling that's on my life, and there's a divine design. And so when you're worried and things are out of control, remember that you can control your control. You can only control your controllables. And what are your controllables? You can control that worry by releasing it and praying instead, and being grateful for the person, place, or thing that you're worried about. So channel that worry instead from being worried about, person, place, or thing, to praying a prayer of safety, peace, and gratitude over them, and just being so grateful for that part in your story, that person's part in your story, that place in your story, and remind yourself that it's not up to us. We're not the savior of anybody's story. Like, we are not going to save people. I cannot fix my husband's health. I cannot, fix my daughter's life. I cannot turn the time clock back for my parents. I cannot do everything. I'm not the author of other people's outcomes, but I am a source of love, peace, and light. And all I can do is show up. So how do you want to show up in the world? Control your controllables. All you can control is what your thoughts are. How do you want to show up in the world? And when you have a negative thought, remember to go through the questions. Is that true? Are you absolutely certain that's true? And if it's true, what does that mean? And who would I be without that thought? And then release it. Thank you. I love you. I'm so grateful for you. Goodbye. Like, release the thought and, you know, anchor in. Anchor into your controllables. Your foundations. You can only control your foundations. So anchor in. Take a deep breath. Release it. And trust. Trust. Trust that God and the universe and the divine, the divinity of everything knows and sees and is holding and loving the person that you're worried about in their hands, in its hand. They are safe, they are loved, they have a calling on their life. There's a divine design, and God is holding them even harder than you are. And even if tragedy strikes and their story ends in a way that is deeply painful, we must understand that there's a reason for everything, and this too shall pass, and you're going to be okay. Be okay. They're going to be okay. Everybody's going to be okay. So don't waste today worrying about tomorrow. Give it to God and go enjoy your day. Anchor in, control your controllables, live fully, love deeply, walk peacefully, and you're not alone. So rise and shine. Anchor in, everyone. Anchor in this morning, and don't worry. Even if the worst is to happen, you will make it and you will be okay. There's always a lesson, and there's always a rainbow in the middle of the most ugly of storms. So control what you have today, control your controllables, and go enjoy the sunshine. Have a beautiful day. Go do something nice for someone today. Get outside yourself. It's not all about you. And be grateful. Be grateful. Don't worry. Don't let worry steal your joy. And have a wonderful, wonderful day. And I will see you tomorrow. Tomorrow is Friday. Friday. Okay. Have a good day, everyone. Ciao.